at any time. The phone usually comes to me, but if I'm not aware, if I'm not there, then it goes to someone else, one of our lawyers who's capable of answering your questions as you practice. So, that being said, we've won many awards. We have many locations, including, I would point out, Shanghai, Beijing, and soon to be Guangzhou, which is great for signups. We have Chinese-speaking staff. We have fluency in all major languages, whatever they are. Let's talk about assignments. So, assignments are really kind of an interesting thing. Assignments are something people are very scared of. And they're scared of them probably for good reason. First of all, we don't do them very often. But secondly, they're markedly different than some of the other agreements that we regularly encounter. How many of you have done assignments before, just so I have a sense of how experienced we are in this? No? Okay, so most of us haven't done assignments. So I'm going to be spending today going through some of the assignment agreements, pointing out some of the differentiation, and then explaining to you how the actual math works, and then some of the provisional clauses that you'd want to see in Schedule A to make sure that you're fully abreast. And lastly, I'll be dealing with taxation of assignments and what actually transpires, such that some of the rumors that you hear from other agents as you do assignments can be brought with some clarity and purpose. You know, it is the case that almost every time you're dealing with an assignment, what you have are two agents and oftentimes two lawyers that are talking to one another without understanding the first thing about what they are or what the tax consequences are, and actually understanding how this all works and fits together is really critical. Now, the first thing to note is, and this is just a general point, and I want to start here. Assignments are permitted for all contracts, period. If you think about what a contract is, let's put aside a real estate contract for a second. If I make a contract with, what's your name? Pearl. So if I make a contract with Pearl to purchase her car, what is that essence of the contract? What is Pearl promising to give me? Money. Promising to give me a car. And I'm promising to give Pearl money. Okay? It's actually not the case that I'm promising to give Pearl money. It's that there is a promise to give Pearl money, which is different. And as a result, that contract, if I promised to buy Pearl's car for $500, but someone else believes that that car is worth $1,000, they can pay me $500 for the right to buy that contract for $500. I'm allowed to assign that contract. I can sell that contract. And this is as true for real estate as it is for anything else. In our standard OREA form, Form 100 or Form 101, there is no prohibition on assignments at all. Period. Therefore, the promise that takes place in a standard resale assignment, resale agreement, is the promise to provide cash for them providing title. It does not say who you will engross the title in favor of as a purchaser. It does not even say that I'm the one who has to come up with the cash. I'm responsible for making sure someone comes up with the cash, for sure. If someone doesn't come up with the cash, I can be sued because I've committed to making someone come up with that cash. But it doesn't say who is to pay the actual cash. And accordingly, I can sell any normal contract, including an OREA resale contract. If there is nothing written in Schedule A of an OREA resale contract, then I am permitted to sell that, period. Now, there's a couple of complications. If someone is, say, getting a mortgage, the buyer will want an assignment anyway, will want a formal assignment where the seller has consented to it. Why? Because the bank is going to insist on that. But if they were paying all cash, they could theoretically have a contract between the buyer and a new buyer to assign the contract without the seller's consent, and that would be perfectly acceptable. In the same way that I can sell a soybean contract on a futures exchange, right? If I buy a right to purchase a soybean, which is done all the time, and someone believes that the price of soybeans are going to go up, they can buy my contract because it has more value at that point. Okay? There's no restriction. So I'm putting that into your heads because this is markedly different than what it is you guys understand about assignments. What you guys understand about assignments is that the seller has to consent to an assignment. And the reason you think that way is because in a new build contract, it's not an OREA Form 100 or 101. It is a very long 50-page contract, and inevitably in every single one of those contracts, there is a provision that says, you shall not be permitted to assign absent my consent. And so the whole reason that we have to engage the seller, the builder, in an assignment contract is specifically because of a contractual term in the contract, which doesn't exist in the resale world. Does that make sense, just conceptually? Don't worry, I'm going to get to the meat of what you're actually here for, which is how do we do an assignment agreement for a new build. I get it. We're all used to that. I just want to clarify what is going on with assignments generally. Which is why when people, by the way, sometimes come to me and say, Mark, can I add this as part of a Schedule A for a resale that they have the right to assign to mother and brother? I say, why are you doing that? Just don't put anything, because if you put down that it can only be assigned to mother and brother, you're restricting your rights. You're allowed to assign. Don't do that. New builds are different. So the permission to assign is almost always necessary with builders, and it's almost never necessary with a resale. Make sense? Just as a preliminary matter? Okay, let's get to the meat of what you're actually here for, because this isn't it. All right? Let's talk. Ooh, that is hard to see. Well, I didn't realize that would be as hard as it is to see. All right. So this here is the form that you use. I am going to, from now on, assume that the assignment that we're dealing with is the one that will preoccupy 99.999% of your times. That is to say, I have someone who wants to purchase from someone who purchased from a builder, okay? Because that's really what you're going to be dealing with. And for that, you're going to be using an assignment agreement of purchase and sale for a condominium. Could be for a freehold as well, but let's just use the condominium for it.
Form 150.
It's Form 150, yes. It's Form 150. Now, if any of you have seen Form 150, you will be very comforted. You're going to go to Web Forms, you're going to pull it up, you're going to be like, the OREA form. This will be a breeze, I'm used to this. But you're going to note that there are a couple of distinct differences that exist with Section 1, with the Form 150, that don't exist with Form 100 or 101 or anything else. And the first thing you're going to note is that there is no closing date at all as part of this agreement. We'll talk about that in a minute. The big difference here with the Form 150, the things you need to know are 3 things to fill out this form. Firstly, there is no closing date. Secondly, how do I deal with HST? We'll talk about it. And thirdly, how do I do Schedule B? And Schedule B is always where I suggest everyone start filling out Form 150. Don't even bother with page 1, 2, 3, or 4. Turn to Schedule B, because what Schedule B is it's the math of the transaction. And really understanding your math is critical in order to be able to fill out this form. And do not worry if you get this wrong. Absolutely every person who ever submits an assignment agreement gets this math wrong. You won't after this, because you're going to actually know how to do the math. But everyone gets it wrong. It drives me batty. It's not that hard. What it is there are 6 lines that are part of this agreement. Should I pull it up on a different? It doesn't matter, because I have it over here with the math. I've actually copied it out. So line 1 is the purchase price, including the APS and assignment. So in this hypothetical scenario, I just made up some numbers, and I said that they originally purchased a property or a condo for $470,000 from the builder, and they are paying for the right to assign this $600,000. Those are the numbers I'm choosing. They are putting down as a deposit to the builder $80,000, and they're putting down $40,000 as a deposit on this agreement. So remember, with an assignment, there are 2 contracts that we're dealing with. One is the original contract that exists between the buyer and the builder, and the other is the contract that exists as between the assignee and the assignor. Assignor is the seller, assignee is the buyer. Write that down because everyone gets confused. So what we're talking about is accounting for the deposit for contract 1 that is between the buyer and the builder, and the deposit that exists as part of this agreement between the assignee and the assignor. And the math works like this. Line 1 of Schedule B says, please insert the total assignment price, $600,000. Line 2, put in the original purchase price of the agreement of purchase and sale, which original purchase price includes upgrades, just so you're aware, okay? That includes upgrades. The amount that they have paid for the agreement, $470.
So even if it's not outlined as the purchase price on the agreement of purchase and sale, and there was an amendment to add
Then
whatever.
you add in
you
the
added
full
it.
amount, exactly. And then, number 3 says that you have to take the deposits paid by the assignor to the seller under the agreement, $80,000. Forget what's written in red. All we're doing is filling this out so far, okay? You're just inputting the lines that it is asking for. First line says, give me the total purchase price including the original APS and assignment. There it is. Next one, the original purchase price, there it is. And everyone is welcome to a copy of this presentation afterwards if you like. Number 3, please provide me with the amount of money that is being paid to the builder or that has been paid to the builder. And if you think about it, what does the assignee, the buyer, owe the assignor, the seller? That's not what you're supposed to call them, but just for the conceptual sake, because we get them confused. What do they owe them? They owe them this minus this, so there's $130,000 in profit, plus the return of the deposits. Why is the assignee paying the deposits back to the assignor? Because the assignee, when they step into the assignor's shoes, will be credited with that $80,000 on closing. So we're giving it back. So the amount of money that is actually payable by the assignee to the assignor is the profit plus the original deposits. And that amount is the payment by the assignee to the assignor for this assignment agreement. So you can't fill out line 4 until you've done the math of 1, 2, 3. And once you have line 4, then you take the deposits that have been paid to the brokerage already, and you figure out what the balance is due or not.
They add profit plus deposit that the assigner pay to builder.
Sorry?
You don't need to add that one to profit to deposit.
No, the deposit has nothing to do with it. The deposit is the same thing as any other deposit in a normal purchase or sale or anything else. It's just money I'm paying towards the 210. Right? It's like I owe you $210,000 because I owe you the profit plus the return of the deposits. I owe you $210,000. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I've paid you $40,000 to the
Yes.
brokerage. Therefore, I now owe you an extra 170, and we are square.
Yeah.
We are copacetic, right? And so the math is this minus this plus this equals this minus that equals that. Does that make sense? Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't see, what do you have on line 2?
Line 2 is the purchase price of the original agreement of purchase and sale. The agreement with the builder. That's the math, yes.
This, in regard to the assignment deposit, let's say they're selling it prior to occupancy, so that's why you do the calculation minus the deposit of 40,000 because that has been paid. The occupancy has not been paid yet.
So this has nothing to do with occupancy. What this $40,000 is referring to, no, that's not it. That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, sorry.
This $40,000 refers to the deposit that is paid under this agreement. So it says, same thing as anything else. What is the purchase price is this, and you're going to put in the assignment purchase price, 600,000, and it's going to say the deposit is same as any deposit on a purchase. I'm going to pay you $40,000. It has nothing to do with what you've paid the builder at all. It has to do with the money that the assignor is paying, the assignee is paying the assignor. In this case, under the scenario, there's $210 total $1,000 that has to be paid. $40,000, which is going to the brokerage, of that amount is the credit. Yes.
Okay, principal, is it possibility we have 2 deposits in this agreement? One deposit cash out before closing, because $80,000 the assigner paid to the builders.
We'll talk about that. It's part of Schedule A. We're only on the math so far. We're not talking about the provided clauses of Schedule A.
You're sending us a copy of this, right?
You guys are welcome to it. Celeste will send this all around. So everything that we ever do for you guys, you can just get a copy of any of our presentations. By the way, there's been some great previous hits if you've missed them. So I strongly suggest you go over our previous presentations, which are each more engrossing than the last. All right, so this is the math. Does the math make sense to people? Please don't make the mathematical error. Now, there is something that throws people off. With your permission, I'm going to just do this for a second. There is actually, where is it? we go. How do I rotate this? Ah, get in there. There we go. There is something in Schedule B which causes a bit of concern. Just increase. You'll note that here, so this is the math. This is the section. I just did out the math, right? This was the 600, 470, 80,000, so on and so forth. But you'll note that there is something here where you are allowed to select. There are three different options, two effectively. And what it says is that the deposits, the $80,000 that have been paid already, how are they to make their way back to the assignee? When? When do they get paid back to the assignee? You have the option. You can either pick, you can put down when that amount is to be paid back. Sorry? Let's just hold on. No, you can't. I'm pausing for dramatic effect. My God, come on. All right. So it's upon acceptance of this assignment agreement and receipt of consent to assign from the original seller. That's one option, which is effectively right away, right? It's like once you accept this and once the builder says yes, I will pay you your $80,000. Or some people don't have. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. This is only, this line here only refers to the deposits. Both of you want to get there as to how I get paid immediately. We will, I promise you. I'm not going to leave you in the lurch. Just bear with me. We're talking only about what the deposits are. This line relates to line 3. It says deposits paid by the assignor to be paid by the assignee to the assignor as follows. So it's talking specifically about the deposits. And the deposit is to be paid upon acceptance of this assignment agreement and receipt of consent to assign, or on final closing. You could pick, but it is the case that that line should be there. Okay, this is about the return of the $80,000. It's not about the profit. Not about the profit. We'll get into that.
How about the third choice?
Sorry?
It's like we have a
Oh,
choice.
as otherwise described in this agreement. Okay, so that's where we start. Every person who has to do an assignment agreement from now on is going to start, there we go. It's going to start with Schedule B, because that's the best place to start. Now that we have our math and we understand how it works, it's relatively easy to fill out page 1. You're just going to put in everything you're going to be familiar with. You're going to understand the deposit, you're going to understand the price. There is nothing else to be discussed in the assignment agreement except Schedule A. Now, Schedule A is much more tricky than it is for a purchase or a sale. And there are a range of clauses you can put in, and we have a whole bunch of precedents, but I've decided to highlight a couple of very important ones that you must have in as part of every assignment agreement. The first, even though it's included as part of the standard OREA Form 150, is you must have a clause that says that the builder has to provide consent within a certain amount of days. In this case, we said 10 banking days. Why? Because if you don't include this, then all it says is that it's conditional upon builder consent. And if it takes 3 months, you're in this limbo period where the deal, your money is tied up and you can't do anything. It's best to just stipulate, look, this needs to be approved by the builder within 10 days. Now, many of you are familiar with the idea that builders are allowed to consent or not. Why? Well, we talked about this already. It's because in the new build contract, there is a provision that specifically says the seller is disallowed from actually assigning. It is the case that some schmucky builders sometimes say, no, we're not permitting this. And where they do that, that's when you call up the magnificent legal minds at Access Law, and we write the following letter to them. Dear sir or madam, be advised that, and I think I did this in a previous lecture, be advised that you have denied the assignment. And while that is your legal right to do so, allow me to tell you a bit about my client. My client is an elderly war widow who, after being attacked by a pack of ferocious wolves, found herself drowning in Lake Ontario, and the house was washed downstream 3 miles from where it ended up. And now she's found herself in a refrigerator box under the DVP, and we will simply be unable to conclude this transaction. We are aware that you, the builder, have a duty to mitigate your damage per case law, and we are providing you with an assignee that can do this credibly and mitigate everyone's damage. So we would ask that you act in accordance with your legal obligations and be very nice, and you'll make our Christmas list. Please confirm the assignment. And in the 5 times in my career where I've been forced to write that because builders have said no, they have all called me up and said, Mark, okay, please do not tell anyone. So I'm telling everyone, please do not tell everyone. This is never going to happen again, but we are going to permit it in this instance because they know they have a legal right. Anyways, doesn't make a difference. The point being, you need to get the developer's written consent. And so what happens is after this agreement is done, we then take the agreement and we submit it. The SI-NOR's lawyer submits it to the builder, and the builder provides us with yet a 3rd agreement. So now we have 1 agreement between the builder and the seller, sorry, the builder and the original buyer. We have 1 agreement between the assignee and the SI-NOR, and we're going to get a 3rd agreement where the builder, the assignee, and the SI-NOR all sign, and what it says in that agreement is we are transferring all rights and obligations to the assignee. The SI-NOR is removing itself from this agreement, except if the assignee does not close, in which case the SI-NOR is still responsible. And once that is signed, the assignment is complete. That is builder consent. That is what we are seeking to obtain, right? Yes.
So you don't need to get consent prior to listing the assignment, for example.
No,
can
you
just
do
that
not
one
need to
thing.
get consent at all. In fact, the builders won't even pay attention to you until you submit to them an agreement. But that's why it's so critical that it be conditional, a condition precedent, mind you, on builder consent. This clause must be in there, yes.
Is it possible, or does it happen that the person that buys from the builder, the original buyer, will have already in those documents that if he wants to sell, so that
It is possible, but if you actually read what the builder provides, the assignment right, it's actually called a limited right of assignment. And they're ridiculous. The builders never say no, by the way, because they make money on it. But there's a limited right of assignment, which basically says that the builder, if they feel like it, will permit the assignment.
I saw one recently that it says that they're allowed to sell and they even cost the payment out.
Right. And that's what they do. They try to distract people and they say, hey, we're going to maintain our right to say no, but if we say yes, it's going to be $0 as opposed to
So in a
$2,500.
case like that, again, sorry if in a case like that, should we still go after the builder and get them to sign?
You still need to get their consent every time, even if they have a limited right of assignment. All that's saying is the builder will permit it if they choose to permit it.
Okay.
So you still have to do it. It's just you're not likely to have to get one of my war widow letters, right? Because they're going to say, yes, we're permitting this. That's what you're getting by getting that line. Yeah.
The 3rd agreement, where is there a form for that?
No, that's provided by the builder to the SI-NOR's lawyer. The SI-NOR's lawyer will probably turn to agents because we're very, very lazy professionals here in the legal world. And we'll say, please go get this signed and then give it back to us. Or if you have a good lawyer, yes, I don't do this, the agents, then they may actually go ahead and solicit the signatures themselves. Shouldn't have put myself down there. I'm awesome. Don't ever think that. All right. Fee payments. Let's go there. Okay. So it's very important that you describe who is paying what as part of this agreement. So there's a couple of obvious things. First of all, it's obvious that the assignee, the person who's buying, is going to pay land transfer tax. Right? It's obvious. They're the ones who are closing. Yes,
Land, it is on closing. The closing,
I'm closing.
the purchase price. What is that purchase price?
The purchase price that theoretically, legally should be there is the assignment price. For land
Legally,
transfer.
but usually what?
Usually it's the original purchase price. I could talk about that, but lawyers generally for assignees don't say anything because the preparation of the deed is done by the builder. And we are all of the opinion that screw it, I'm not going to charge our client extra. Every lawyer does this. We shouldn't. We are aware that land transfer tax is payable on the assignment price. That's kind of our take on things. Anyways, so we are all aware, without even writing it, that the assignee is going to pay land transfer tax. We are similarly aware that the assignee is going to pay their lawyer fees. But there are two other fees that need discussion as part of this agreement, which are constantly subject to negotiation. Default is that the assignor, the seller, is going to be paying the assignment fee, whatever cost that is incurred by the builder for the right to assign, which is usually $2,500, $5,000, whatever it may be, the assignor will pay that. That's general. And it's usually the case that the assignee will pay any and all adjustment costs. Note, not development costs, adjustment costs. We'll talk about that in a second. That's general. That's the usual breakdown. If you want to just get a deal, then you put in something that says the assignee hereby acknowledges that the assignee is responsible for paying all the closing adjustments charged by the developer on final closing statement of adjustments, payable in addition to the original purchase price. The assignor acknowledges and agrees that it should be responsible for paying the fees, if any, for obtaining consent from the builder to assign the original agreement of purchase and sale. That's the usual. But oftentimes, particularly as negotiations drag out, and particularly if you're in certain communities in the city, we find that there is always a fight over the first sentence with the final closings, because someone has advertised their unit and said, I have a cap. I have a cap on my final fees of $6,000. And so the assignee says, okay, put up or shut up. I need a clause that allows me to say if it goes above $6,000, I'm allowed to deduct that from the purchase price. And the reason this gets messy is because people and agents don't understand the difference between adjustments and development charges. People think adjustments on development charges are the same thing. They are not. Development charges are part of adjustments. Adjustments include much more than development charges. So if you've capped development charges at $6,000, your total adjustment cost may still be $10,000. And accordingly, if someone is advertising as part of an assignment that they have adjustments capped at $6,000, but what they have is development charges capped at $6,000, you can structure something to your client's benefit as the assignee, saying, assignor represents and warrants that adjustment costs shall be no more than $6,000, and the assignor will sign it because they don't know the difference between the development costs and adjustment costs. And if it goes above that, thank you very much, we'll deduct that from the purchase price. I can't tell you how many times we do that a day. But you can structure this any way you want. If you didn't understand what I was talking about, don't worry, because all you really need to remember is the next time you do an assignment agreement, you call me up and we'll go over it together. Right? This is kind of what everyone does. The next paragraph, I do not ever want to see you do an assignment agreement without this in there. I don't care if you're working for the assignee or the assignor, you must have this in there, and no one knows you need to have it in there. It says this, it says that the assignor acknowledges that it has not caused anyone to occupy the property and will not cause anyone to occupy the property prior to the assignment completion. At any time, the assignee can request the signed statutory declaration from the assignor stating that they have not caused anyone to reside at the property, and this clause shall survive and not merge on closing. Why is this important? Well, in order to understand why this is important, we have to go back to this. Remember the original purchase price of the APS, the one that said $470 is due and owing? Without going into detail, we are aware of the fact of the trick that builders play. Builders play a trick, and that is that even though they're saying that you will pay $470, what you're actually paying is $494, excuse me. You're paying $24,000 more. Why? Because you're paying $470, and the government is providing an HST rebate for $24,000, which you've agreed to give over to the builder. That's the way it works, such that you are actually only paying $470, but the builder is netting $24,000 more than $470. Make sense? Now, what you need to know, and what people don't know, is that the contract, the original contract, the one that the assignee is taking on, stipulates that if you do not qualify for the rebate, you shall pay the full purchase price, the full amount that the builder is expecting to net. That is to say $470 plus $24,000. And you do not qualify for the rebate if, and you do qualify, but you have to apply separately for the rebate, if an assignment took place after occupancy. So if your assignment takes place after occupancy, the builder will every time say, thank you very much. You do not owe me $470. You owe me $494,000. And at that time, the assignee, the buyer, will have to apply for the $24,000 back.
Assignment.
The assignee, the person who is now paying $494 instead of $470, they're paying an extra $24,000. When they apply for it back, the government will ask for a statutory declaration from the assignor stating that no one has resided in the premise, because it is a condition of qualifying for the HST rebate that no one has occupied the premise, that the assignee be the first occupier of the premise. That is the reason that this must be in, because if your assignment takes place post-occupancy, they will be paying that extra $24,000 or whatever the rebate is, and the only way they'll be able to get it back is with that statutory declaration that we are forcing the assignor to provide. Does that make sense? Okay, I do not want to see an assignment agreement cross my desk without that in there. I don't care if it's before occupancy or after occupancy, just make it a point of habit. Do it, put it in. Yeah.
And if it's after occupancy, we just negotiate on the purchase price at the time you're buying it.
No. So if it's after occupancy, it's not a problem. They'll be able to get it back. You just need to inform the assignee, hey, look, all these numbers, you're gonna have to pay an additional $24,000, but don't worry, in 4 to 6 weeks, you'll get that $24,000 back.
Okay, excuse me, how long after?
Oh, hold on one second, I'm going in order of hands.
Is the date of occupancy, it has nothing to do with whether somebody has moved in or not?
No, well, it has to do with 2 things. Firstly, it has to do with whether occupancy has taken place before the assignment took place. So if the assignment takes place after interim occupancy, then we're in this never world where the builder will deny no matter what, every time. They'll say no. And if no one has occupied the unit prior to the assignment taking place, then the assignee will be able to qualify it back. If the assignor was stupid enough to rent it out,
That's what I was asking. If it's rented out, then we should.
then you should deduct from the purchase price. Well, then either if you're planning on using it as a rental, no problem, because you can qualify for the HST rental rebate. But if you're planning on buying it and using it for your own personal self, no, you should be deducting it by $24,000. You should be saying, look, it's going to cost my client $24,000 more. Thank you very much. It's your own fault. You occupied it. You may not have known, but that's irrelevant to me. Reduce the price. Yes.
I have 2 questions. That's the last question. If the assignor occupy over there before the agreement, only 1 month, and it doesn't need to pay HST rebate,
So is 1 month more than 0?
1 month is more than 0.
Then there's your answer. If anyone occupies the premise at all
For 1 day.
for 1 day at all, then the assignee cannot qualify for the rebate, for the rebate that we are talking about here.
Okay, who?
But
No
usually
one
it's
pays
after closing
24,
date.
only government pays 24,000 to the builder.
But they won't. They won't if it's been occupied. So if it was occupied by the assignor, and the assignor sells it to the assignee, and the assignee intends to live there, the assignee will then go to the government and say, hey, my builder forced me to pay $24,000, please give it back to me. The government will say, were you the first person to live in the premise? They'll say, no, the assignor lived there. They'll say, thank you very much, you don't get your $24,000 back.
Okay, but means who has to pay that 24,000 to
The
the builder?
assignee.
The assignee?
If this clause is in the agreement, then the assignee.
They didn't qualify, that's why they.
Okay, if the assignor, actually, if occupancy happened 1 year ago, and it was rented out by assignor,
Is that more than 0 or less than 0?
it's more than 0.
Then they don't, well, the assignee,
But the assignor is qualified for the HST rebate.
Oh.
Yeah, all
If they
assignor,
want to
if they want to close by themselves, the buyer, they're going to get a rebate, HST rebate.
Yeah.
well,
I
no,
don't
they
know
want to
what's
get
the
the, no,
reason.
no, if they go ahead and rent it,
No, because the builder allow
Rent
to
it.
buyers to rent it.
yeah,
But they rent it, I believe that after closing
they
date,
can
they're
get
not
the
supposed to
HST
rent it.
rental rebate. That's not the same thing as the rebate we're talking about. There's two rebates. There's the HST rebate, which is when you're living there, and there's the HST rental rebate.
No, I do understand, but HSC rebate, if you live over there, you don't pay. Government pays $24,000 to the builder.
I got it.
If you rent it as owner, you pay to the builder $24,000 and government give you back with interest.
You're absolutely right about both of those points.
Okay, but my point is here, if the occupancy date is today and after 13 months, it's not closed yet. This on closing date, the assignor wants to sell the unit. There's two scenarios, sell the unit after,
On closing date or after closing?
but the same of closing date, 1 day after the closing
Okay,
date.
all right, fine, 1 day after closing date.
Okay, who has to pay HSC to the builder?
That's not-
Builder
that's
needs
not an
HS.
assignment.
That's not-
That's
a
not
resale.
assignment.
That's a
We're-
resale.
we're-
It's a resale.
It is a call reset because it's
No,
closed.
it is listed, I do understand, but if assign it before closing, okay, before
If they
closing.
rent, look, let me just go through it all. If we're talking about just the normal course non-assignment, then if someone is going to live there personally, then they qualify for the rental rebate that is built into the agreement of purchase and sale, meaning that if they pay $470, nothing else is payable.
Yes,
If they have it as a rental, then they are paying $494, and they are able to get back upon the submission of your rental agreement to the government. You can get back your $24,000 through a different rebate called the HST new build rental rebate. But it's the same amount of money. You get it back later on. With an assignment, if you go ahead and rent it to someone else, the assignor, and if the assignee intends to take the property and live there, they cannot, and it's after occupancy, which it has to be, because if you've rented it, it's after occupancy, then the assignee will not qualify for the first of those two rebates, the HST rebate, the $24,000.
of course, no, but
Maximum
who paid to the builder?
So I'll tell you, what you're getting confused about is if an assignment takes place after occupancy, the builder will insist on being paid the $24,000 on closing. It's like it's a rental.
Oh, because it's closing is important, not occupancy unit. Okay, I bought a unit, I do have occupancy, I do have the key, I rented out. On closing, 12 months, more than 1 month passed, more than 0 month passed. On closing, I'm going to for closing, who has to pay? And I want to sell it.
But have you assigned it? Have you assigned it?
No, doesn't matter. Who has to pay? No, I didn't assign.
Buyer.
If you didn't assign it, then then the
Original
buyer
buyer.
pays the extra HST and can claim it back through the HST rental rebate.
You have
They
to-
pay the extra
What?
$24,000.
No, I bought me, I'm the seller.
You're not the builder.
I'm not the builder, but
So
I'm,
you told me that there's no assignment. There's only one seller in this instance, and that's the builder. If you haven't assigned it, the only seller is the builder prior to closing.
yeah, but on closing, yesterday was closing, now I am the seller,
Yes.
okay? But for
Yes, sir.
1 year, I lived over there. Means if the occupancy, if $24,000 HSC rate, is it between $24,000 and $30,000? It's not for
Yeah,
$24,000.
between 14 to 20.
Okay, if this amount, because I occupied over there for 1 year,
Then
first of all,
then
it is
you're
gray
not-
area.
I'm not understanding, listen,
Okay, which date is important? Occupancy date
For
from the
closing.
CRA, from the Revenue Canada. Occupancy
the
date is
closing
important.
date is important.
Closing date
Closing
is
date.
important.
But what you're asking has
Occupancy
nothing to
doesn't
do with what we're talking about. What you're asking about has nothing to do with assignments. What you're asking about is generally how the HST rebate works and when someone can
Or
claim.
even the assignment.
No, it's not even the assignment. Don't conflate issues. You're not talking about the assignment. You've given me a scenario that is definitely different, and therefore I have to answer differently. There are differences in the nuances of what I am saying that I don't think you're catching, because you're specifically saying I'm selling 1 day after I close, which means we're not in assignment world. We are in normal purchase world.
Yeah.
Okay, it's different. I am telling you that if you are in an assignment world, if we are assigning, meaning we're selling before closing, and if the assignor has rented the premise or has occupied the premise, then the HST rebate of $24,000 will be denied to the assignee, and the assignee, if they are intending to live there, will not be able to claim it back.
But if you rent it, you're already out.
If you rent it, you're able to
Process,
qualify
right? It's
for-
got nothing to do with.
Right, if you are renting it, if you are renting it, you can still claim the HST rental rebate, which is
What
a
is
different
that
rebate.
rental rebate?
There are two different types of rebates that exist to get back your 24,000. It's the exact same amount of money. One is the HST new build rebate, which is the one that everyone is saying that they qualify for when they sign the agreement. The other is the HST rental rebate, new build rental rebate, which is for the same amount of money, but the difference is procedurally, you have to pay it and then claim it back from the government.
Oh, okay.
Why? Because that way you're alerting the government as to what your income is going to be and alerting your government to the fact that this will be a capital gains property.
This is August after closing date, it's not during the occupancy date.
Sorry?
This is after closing date,
Yeah.
means the original buyer, they close the deal, and in the same time, the lawyer asks buyer, you want to rent it, buy it, or occupy it by yourself? He occupied by yourself, no HSC, they pay.
No, you're
HSC
just dictating your own
If
reality.
the rental, they say, okay, we have to put on a form.
No, I understand, I
after for
understand what
rebate
you're
purchase.
saying, but what you're
the
saying is
seller-
not accurate. You're just expecting me to agree with what you're saying. You're not right. What you're saying to me is your knowledge of the process on the basis of a non-assignment. You're talking to me about what happens in a new build agreement in the normal course. I am telling you what happens when you are assigning. I am telling you that a builder will deny the HST rebate every time, regardless of what you're doing with the property, if you are closing the assignment after interim occupancy. At that point, if you are intending to live there, the assignee is intending to live there, they, similar to the rental rebate, have to claim it back from the government. When they do, the government is going to ask the question, did anyone else live there? Prove it to me. And if they cannot prove that no one else lived there, they won't get back the 24,000, even if it's not rental. Even if it's not rental.
Yes,
That's the difference with an
it
assignment.
looks like commercial.
But government pays to the builder $24,000.
But they don't with an assignment. With an assignment, the builder will deny the HST rebate if the assignment took place after occupancy. This is what you have been missing here. So unlike a normal agreement, if you're just living there, they pay it to the builder. You're correct. But with an assignment, if the assignment takes place post-occupancy, even if you're going to live there, they say, no, 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 no assignment for you. Does that make sense? I'm sorry, no HST rebate for you
It's on closing.
on closing.
If assignee decided to rent it, what happens?
They can claim the HST rental rebate the same way that anyone does by submitting to the government a copy of their lease.
Okay, sorry, just.
Sorry, just one second, you've been very patient. I promise you I'll get to it.
Just $24,000 means assignee has to pay on.
Yes. The assignee has to pay the $24,000 no matter what if it happens after occupancy, period, every time. And they have to claim back from the government every time if it happens after occupancy. It's different than a new build without an assignment. That's what I'm trying to say.
If the assignee wants to live over there, again, government pays $24,000 to assignee.
No, I get,
Assignee pays.
yeah, and then they can get it back,
Get back.
provided that the assignor has not caused anyone to live at the premise. That's the critical component. That's what I'm getting at. That's why we need this line. The assignor has to say, no one has resided here at all,
Oh, I do
in
understand.
order for them to get back that 24,000, which in this case will be held back even if they intend to live there.
How can you prove it? No one was live over there.
That's how you prove it. You get
Affidavit you need?
a statutory declaration. Read the provision that I have here. Don't look at me, read this. Look, 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 there, your eyes are there. Perfect. Statutory declaration is what is required. That's why they're promising to give a statutory declaration. That is the proof you will need for the CRA, which allows you to claim back your $24,000. That is why I want this as part of every single assignment agreement, please. Yes. So hold on.
It's a quick one.
No, I know, but she's been so patient. Go for it.
Just if you quickly can explain, let's say I assign this and take the assignment and take the tenant over, would they be still entitled then?
Yes, the HST rebate and rental rebate can still be claimed, yes.
Okay, even though it was rented in the middle of.
That's fine, because you're claiming a different rebate. That has nothing to do with the rebate I'm talking about. Good question, yes.
So after occupancy, if the assignee they choose to, say the closing, the original closing, the builder closing is like 6 months after.
Yeah.
And there, we work out an arrangement for the assignee to actually reside
Perfect.
the occupancy.
No
They're
issue,
fine. They'll
no
get the
issue,
rebate, right?
no issue. They're allowed to reside there.
Okay.
The idea is that the person claiming the rebate has to be the first person to occupy the property.
Okay, so as long as it's them,
Yes,
they're fine.
exactly
They can
right.
get the rebate.
Exactly right. As long as the assignor has not caused anyone to live there.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
As agents, do we ask for the statutory declaration?
No, you just need to have this. Then the lawyers need to know their thing. And then if the lawyer doesn't know what they're doing, because many lawyers don't know what they're doing when it comes to assignments, that's their problem. Thank you very much. Should have chosen access.
How long do we have to send a form to government?
Up to 2 years.
2 years.
Anything else? Okay. Look, the pizza's here, guys. So I don't know if you guys want to break. I have taxation. I still have this and this. Both of them are going to take up a bit of time. Maybe what we could do is it's 11:45. Maybe we can break, grab some pizza. You guys can munch, and then I'll just continue and do the last 15 minutes. That work? Let's break, and let's meet back here in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Because we're coming to the meat. I want you guys to understand the taxation issues, and I want you to understand some of the preferred clauses that you could put into Schedule A. 2 minutes for pizza. Literally 2. I have this at the very back. Oh, yeah, that's right. I have to pay for that.
Or do you want
Mike?
It's not me, it's my store. Yeah,
Is there where I can?
yeah, Celeste will send it around. That's not an issue at all. I don't have a card, but what I do have is, this will be sent around and it has all of my details. Actually, I might still have a card.
Oh, yeah, me too, please.
You guys are being very presumptuous.
Oh,
Oh, look at that. I have 3 cards.
Can I just take a picture?
You can take a picture. Here you go. You guys can all
I
take
just
a
need a
picture.
picture.
Sorry. I can't do that.
So can we get?
Wait, hold on. Stop people from taking pictures. Should run one for you.
No, I definitely am in contact.
Can I have it, please?
Can I have the card? Oh,
Yeah, you can take a picture.
thank you very much.
We have-
I want to use this.
Celeste will send it all around. It's not an issue. Any of our presentations are always available. I'm aware, I'm also aware.
Thank you.
I don't have access to ours. All I do is, I want access to all my.
So you basically deal with a lot of this stuff.
It's my daily life.
I asked you because I have a lot of studies in so I looked at it briefly, but I haven't done.
All you need to do is, I'll do it with you on the phone, get her on the phone, and we'll conference call, and then you'll hear everything I'm saying. That way you can learn as
But
well.
also they want to find out because she also saw two before, and I think that must have been.
I can deal with anything, I can deal with anything that you throw at me. It's not a problem.
Thanks.
We're very knowledgeable, it's not just myself, all of our lawyers really know our stuff.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Mark, can I get a link to this, all the information?
Celeste will send this around. Celeste, the person who organizes this. This is yours, like she
Because
can.
I didn't register.
Register.
See, this is the whole advantage of registering. All right, guys, let's just finish this up. You can take a picture of it. I only had 3 of them, unfortunately.
Actually, I wanted to come with Michael to your office because Michael is a visitor in Canada from 9 years ago. They do have work permit, both of them, husband and wife now. For HSC, I asked you the previous time when you came here, I asked you and you said because they do have work permit.
The ONIP,
For
they're
6 years, they have work permit. Actually, the husband has work permit 6 years, wife finished school.
that has nothing to do with HST. You're talking about the NRST. You're talking about the
13%, sorry, not HSC.
15%.
Sorry, 50.
The 15%. And yeah, as long as they are nominees, Ontario nominees under the work program, then yeah, they can qualify for a back. It's exempt.
If I make appointment, do you charge for
No,
consultation?
Absolutely not. I'd be happy to do it with you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you don't even need to make an appointment. Just do it on the phone.
Not on the phone, because he wants to see.
Sure, you can meet with me in person at the
Where
office.
is your office?
I'm usually located downtown at the University of Dundas. But I'm happy to do it. Let me just finish it up. All right, guys, let's finish this up because I know we all have fairly tight schedules. Oh, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Believe me, I'm not altruistic. We get deals this way. This is kind of how we do this, right? This is grouping. Thank you so much. All right, guys.
Very nice to meet you.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. All right, guys, let's just quickly go through the two other clauses that we generally see. Guys, I promise you I won't make it more than 15 more minutes. Let's go through the other clauses that we sometimes see, which actually answer a lot of the questions that were being brought up before. And then I'll deal with taxation issues, because taxation issues occupy a good deal of confusion in the assignment process. So the two various suggested clauses is how the monies are paid. Remember I told you that there's no closing date as part of this? So if you don't put anything into the assignment agreement, the closing date, not when the deposits are paid back. We talked about that. Remember Schedule B has when the deposits are paid back? But the closing date, when the money is to be paid to the agents and when the money is to be paid to the assignor, can in fact be dictated as part of Schedule A. If you don't say anything, it happens on final closing. That's what happens. When final closing takes place, it dovetails, okay? But you can say something different, particularly if you're the assignor, and particularly if you're in the Chinese community, where assignors want their money and it's usually cash deals, and so we always see this continually in Markham. Payment of monies can be arranged prior to that. And you could say the assignee agrees to pay the balance of the purchase price, subject to adjustments and any other provisions in this agreement, to the assignor on acceptance of this assignment agreement or receipt of consent to assign from the original seller. You could say that. You could say, thank you very much. I agreed to do this, to pay all of the money. Remember we said $210,000 is payable? 40,000 was already given. There's an extra 170,000. I agree to pay that 170,000 once the builder consents, once the builder agrees to give that three-way agreement. And with funds drawn on a lawyer's trust account in the form of a bank draft, certified or wire transfer using large value transfer system. So that can be when it, yeah.
Is this for you as a lawyer advisable for
No.
the assignee? Because
No, not for the assignee, for the assignor.
There's nothing.
Absolutely not. I would not suggest that at all. In fact, I would say the assignee wants on final closing. Yeah.
What's the advantage of doing that?
Because the assignor sometimes wants their money. They just want to be done. And this is a negotiation tactic. The assignor is saying, I'll do this for you. I'll take less money. I want my money now. Give me my money. Give me my profit. Let's go. I don't want to wait 6 months. I don't want to wait an indefinite time period. And you may get a lesser price as a result of being able to give money now.
It's good for us too. We can receive our commission as well too.
And it's good for commission. Now, here's
Yeah,
the
you get a
thing.
commission rate.
This here is desirable if you're acting for the assignor. Watch this. The parties agree that upon all conditions of this agreement being met and the payment of the balance of the purchase price being concluded, all monies held in trust shall be releasable to the assignor, and the brokerage shall be entitled to release any commissions payable to the brokerages as payments for services rendered. Hold on. The clause shall constitute the assignee's full and final irrevocable direction to release the monies, and no further authorization is required. If I put that in, I don't need to wait till final closing. I am stipulating that not only am I going to pay this is only if you work for the assignor. This is not advantageous to the assignee. But what I'm stipulating is that upon acceptance of this assignment agreement and consent of the assigned to the seller, I am allowed to pay the money and I am authorized to release the money. Here is the authorization. Brokerages can act, lawyers can act, go ahead, done. Now, the assignee may get screwed. What happens if the builder goes bankrupt?
Exactly.
What happens if fundamentally something takes place or there's some incongruency? I do not suggest this for the assignee. I do strongly suggest this for the assignor. Right? This is a balancing act. This is the power. This is where you as agents can really negotiate and understand that this provision can dictate what's going on. In the absence of any of this, if you didn't have any of this, what would happen? Well, the deposits would be paid back in accordance with Schedule B, and then the balance would be paid on closing. So you have, yes.
Actually, thank you. Actually, I had two questions. You answered one of them. But one building, Argentino, Telaidel building, it has water issue. Now it is under occupancy from 18 months ago.
Okay,
If any assignment is in place for any unit, can assignee cancel the deal?
no,
Contract.
Because the advertising from the builder, it is 50 cents per square feet for maintenance fee. Because the issue they have it is about 90 cents per square feet now.
that has nothing to do with an assignment. That's if I were to rephrase your question,
Yeah.
you'd say in a new build, do they have to ultimately adhere to the square footage advertised? And this is not an assignment question, but to answer your question, yes, they have to adhere to the square footage advertised for the first year. But if you look at the declaration, it says 50 cents and it shall go up by a rate of 8% per year after this agreement is signed, such that the 50 cents you think you're paying is actually 75 or 80 cents anyways by the time the building is built. Because in the declaration, it does not say 50 cents. It says 50 cents adjusted by 8% per year. And that's what it gets you. But for the first year, they have to adhere to
Is
that.
it possible to put any condition for assignee in
You
the
can put,
schedule?
sure, you can put whatever you
If
want.
Anything on closing, the assignee is not satisfied, break the deal?
Yes, you can. You can put down that the assignee, as long as the monies aren't paid, the way to deal with that is to say, like, remember we were talking about the adjustment costs? If any adjustment costs are over $6,000, then that shall be deducted from the total amount payable on final closing. And provided money is still payable, you just reduce the purchase price by whatever that is. And yes, agents can do that. There are, guys, literally pages and pages and pages of these Schedule A's that I could have brought to bear. I just highlighted a couple of important ones to show you. This page is really showing you how you can amend the agreement. This page here, I will kill you if you don't put this in. Other than that, these are kind of like the requirements, right? Now, let's talk about the stuff that people don't know. Let's talk about taxation. So you'll note this is Schedule B. This is the exact same numbers and everything else as this. Okay, so we're all familiar now with Schedule B. I want to talk about the ramifications of Schedule B, what happens from a tax perspective. And this will answer the question of why it is, I promise you guys can just take, we'll send it all around, I promise you. These are, you're welcome to take pictures, don't get me wrong, I hope you get me smiling in them, I'm just saying you will get it. In this, there is something that says HST is included in or excluded from. Under no circumstances for an assignment agreement, under no circumstances do you ever write anything other than included in. I don't care if you're working for the assignor or the assignee. Included in. It means something different than your previous agreements. In your previous agreements, residential resales is exempt surplus under the Income Tax Act. What that means is you do not pay tax on residential real estate, resale real estate. On commercial, if you do pay tax, don't worry about it, it's zeroed out. If that doesn't make sense to you, don't worry about it. Just, you should know you don't care one way or the other. For this agreement, it matters a good deal. Why? It matters that it be included in because HST is payable on new construction. And as we are aware, the 470 includes HST. But there is a chance, based on the intention of the assignor at the time that they signed the agreement with the builder, that if they had as their intention that they were going to assign this unit, that the CRA will say, you were not acting as a buyer, you were acting as a developer. And thus, 13% is payable on your assignment price. What's your assignment price? Well, 470 already has the HST built in. You will pay HST on that, 210. This plus the return of deposits. I don't know why the return of deposits, but that's the law. So it's possible that the assignor, based on their mental state at the time that they entered into the agreement of purchase and sale, will have to pay HST. And therefore, there is a possible HST on $210,000, which can come to $27,300. There is no way the assignee could ever know what was in the assignor's head at the time they signed the agreement, nor should they be responsible for it. Does everyone get that? Okay. In addition to that, there's also possible taxable capital gains, right? I mean, it could be a capital gain, it could be income. If they are deemed to be the developer, if it was their intention at the time they signed this agreement to sell the property, then it was their intention to make a profit from this. and thus they will have to pay income tax. So they'll take the difference between 600 and 470, that's 130,000, and 100% of that will be put into their tax bracket. Let's say it's 54% of the highest tax bracket, and they'll have to pay $54,000 in tax. If they weren't found to be the developer, but just made a profit, they may have to pay capital gains, which is half of $54,000 that is going to be payable to the government. So the assignor is going to face tax consequences, either capital gain or income tax plus HST. The assignee technically has to pay land transfer tax on this price, not that price. Though that's never the case. That's never what happens. But legally, that's what the taxation is. So for HST, it is always included in as part of these agreements. Okay, and everyone gets mixed up because they're like, I don't get it. HST was included in as part of the original purchase price, and there's a rebate and everything else. This has nothing to do with any of that. We're referring to the HST on the $210,000, which hasn't been accounted for anyone else. Please include it in. And
So-
that, yes,
HST on that example, builder paid HST.
builder paid HST on 470, but the amount
Because the government paid, means builder didn't pay, because government paid.
how did the
That
government?
number, it is calculated HST included.
Yes,
At
470 is HST included.
Yeah, 470,
600 isn't HST included.
no, okay, the difference you have to pay.
Right, you have to pay the difference plus the return of deposits. That's what the raw rule is. I don't understand why.
And you said intention.
Yes, the intention of the
Okay,
assignor,
my intention, maybe any seconds changes.
sorry,
Intention.
the intention at the time they signed the agreement.
Maybe after 2 seconds, you change the
Great,
intention.
then argue that with the CRA. You'll see that they're very good at arguing about it.
No, but I have this 1 year.
This has nothing to do with 1 year or anything else. This has to do with you are assigning an agreement. If it can be proven that you had at the intention, at the time you bought this, the intention of assigning it. If you sat there and said, and there's email correspondence back and forth to the builder saying, I refuse to buy this unless I can get into right of assignment. And by the way, I'm buying 4 of these and the purpose of this is to buy. We have correspondence like that. Well, then the builder's going to say, thank you very much. Your intention was to sell this. You're a developer. You owe me the 13% and you owe me income tax on the profit. Done. That's it.
The discretion also of the CRA.
Right, and they use their discretion wisely in their favor.
Yeah.
That's it, guys. That's my presentation. Always have this burnt into your retinas. That's us. This here, by the way, just very quickly. No problem, Liz. Thank you. This here is our direct line. Okay, this goes to our cell phones, our lawyers' cell phones. So this is for, just say you're from Royal LePage, and this will come in. For Royal LePage agents, there's no fees for reviews or status certificates. We get them done within 2 or 3 hours, but never any later than that same day. We're awesome. And thank you very much for
So
the
no
How
fee
much
for
do you charge for that
certificate,
assignment?
but if we deal with you for the.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the hope.
If not, still you don't charge?
Ah, yeah.
2-3 hours. Excellent.
You usually 10 minutes, actually. We get these things, we have such volume that if we don't get it done right away, like, we're screwed.
Perfect.
Yeah, we need to just get it off our plate, otherwise we can't go home and then.
My lord, takes
And
3
how
days.
long do you contract, the whole contract?
Yeah, we do new build reviews within the same day.
And
خانم
$100.
ایرانی دوست 50 دلار میگیره.
All the
Got
time.
it? $180.
So that's it, I'm gonna grab my pizza. Anyone have any questions?
Thank you so much.
No, no, it's a
You are
pleasure.
very, very professional.
I'm glad, guys.
You have all answers.
I made most of them up. People just didn't know.
Mark, I have
No,
a-
you know about that because the other lawyers have some gap, and you know.
Well, thank you.
Your phone call.
What the HST?
Thanks, Mark.
Just put aside assignment
Oh,
for just the regular purchaser.
ببین من بگو ببینم.
Isn't the HST included in, you said that
And
the purchase price
Oh,
from
no,
the
no,
builder?
گوش کن، گوش کن.
When they
من
can actually
من
fill
نمیدونم.
the form and take the HST or paid by a builder, they don't need to.
ببین، من یه آپارتمان
They
اینجا
fill out
چیز
their
هست.
form. If they're qualifying for the HST on closing, they fill out their form with their lawyer on their
من
sign.
یه آپارتمان می‌خرم.
If they are not qualifying, if they're qualifying after the
گوش
fact,
کن، من یه آپارتمان
they
می‌خرم.
fill out their form immediately after closing.
نمی‌شینم من توش.
And there's
So
اجازه میگیرم.
that means that they
Bad
have
as
to
you get
fill the
builder
form
and
after
seal
closing
the-
anyway and
این
get the HST
اساینش
back,
بکن.
right?
Correct.
توجه کن.
Thank you.
Yeah.
حالا اون کسی که از من خریده اینو، مثلا تو اگه از من خریدی اینو،
با اون اسامی
اسم
You
مسئول
have 30 seconds.
بعد از آکوپنسی این
No
خیلی
problem at all.
اومدی تو از من گرفتی اگر خودت نخواهی زندگی بکنی اون نخواهی اینجا که از من خریدی زندگی بکنی چه چیزی تو باید پس بدی
Sure. No problem at all. Pleasure. My bad.
متوجه شدم.
نشوی دیگه من به این سادگی مثال زدم نشوی دیگه
Just copy them. Yeah, and she's authorized.
اگه من به عنوان اساینی برم اونجا بشینم بعد اچسی پرداخت کنم.
Well, really, but just one answer. If no answer, one answer for you. My question it is same question. Assigner start to assign the unit after occupancy. On closing, the assignee wants to leave over there. No one lived over there on the occupancy on that period.
Mhm.
Who has to pay HSC?
The assignee.
The assignee has to pay, and the Schedule 8 says that? Your
No, it
schedule-
doesn't say that in Schedule A. All it says in Schedule A is that the assignor will provide a statutory declaration, which is the proof that the assignee will need to claim it back from the government.
Mhm.
The assignee will pay that, even if they're planning on living there. They will pay the extra $24,000,
Okay,
and then they will be able to get it back, but the government is going to say, prove to me that no one's lived there before you.
After how many months? Is it 2
And
months?
in order to do that, they need to know you can do it immediately. And at that point, they will require the statutory declaration from the assignor saying, I never lived there.
if the assignor lived over there, what happened?
Then they are screwed.
An assignee has to pay $24,000? It's not fair.
That's why you
Assign-
are never
what
going
you
to,
do the same no,
that's
even-
why you're never going to.
No, I do understand. No, actually, but the assignee
What if
Assign
assign
more
there,
people
if they
over
say
there.
no, is okay, that's fine.
for 1 year.
I know when the assignee took the risk to do such assignment.
No, I know.
at least she paid for
No, I,
paying for that risk too.
okay.
There's nothing unfair because the assignor has promised that they will provide a statutory declaration.
Okay.
And if they don't provide it,
No, they provided. And it says on that one, it says the assigner lived over there.
no, but if they do that, then
Uh-huh.
that's contravening the clause that I wrote, which said they are promising that no one has lived there. And if they are signing that clause, then the lawyer, upon not receiving that, won't close and will say, screw you. If you're telling me you've lived there and you're not able to do that, it's going to cost my client $24,000. I want a reduction.
Okay, on the assigner, on the first day, I say assignee, I lived over there for 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, in the occupancy period.
So you're not willing to sign the clause.
No, I tell you, I am very
You should
honest.
know as your agent, you should know as your agent,
Assignee has to pay HSC rebate?
and therefore you should be reducing your assignment price by $24,000. This is
Wow.
now worth $24,000 less to you, because you're gonna have to pay $24,000 more.
And the assignee pays to the, who, to build there?
How does you understand
Oh.
that who lives there?
Sorry?
If the assigner live there physically, but they say no, how does
As
you
long as they sign the assignment,
Yes.
as long as they sign the statutory declaration, the CRA will credit you, and then they'll sue the assignor for false statement.
When we write the contract, can we forward it to you before
I
anybody
do
sign it?
so many assignment reviews every single day, specifically by agents. Never ever submit
Before we show it to you?
always go through a lawyer for an assignment contract and we'll do a review every time. It's like a new build. Agents should be using lawyers for reviewing of this because it's complicated stuff and
Yeah.
everyone screws it up.
Yeah, exactly.
How about-
It's so complicated.
It's free.
How-
We make money by getting deals. So you guys are our source of leads. So we'll clean your shoes if you ask.
How about the agreement of purchase?
How about during the occupancy, assignee live on the west side?
Sorry?
If assignee on the during the occupancy live there, what's happened?
If the assignee lives there, there's no problem.
No problem.
No problem.
Oh, assignee lives there.
The assignee can live there as long as the assignor has not lived there or caused someone else to live there. The assignee can
That
claim
means
the.
if I do it as a assigner agent, I have to advise them that don't rent it to anybody and don't.
Damn straight. There you go. Now you got it. Yes.
Okay.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you
Thank you
very
so much.
much.
Your business card. No, Kevin.
Some sort of a
Kevin.
crystal.
Later, bye-bye.
new agreement رو چک میکنم مجانی
Yeah, let's just go to.
نه بهش
No, no, prepare the offer, give it to me.
این به درد تو
You and I will go over it together.
Did you review, does that condominium document we are spoke to?
Which one?
I
we do all that.
Other document.
Yeah,
You do everything?
Very, very.
Mark, your business card.
I have it here. Put it in here, and that's okay.
Like in the
So, Pearl. I'll show you another picture of another trial, and I use the sample. I'll show you.
They're the only person that can.
You can clean it? Oh, it's so dirty. Richard goes, yes. Right. This is kind of messy. That was like something like that. All the way down. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't want to look like a.
Yeah.
It's nice. If you don't have anything.
Yeah.
What did, I was on the side. Hair was white.
Oh, the tiara? I had shit on her. Megan?
Megan.
Shit on her band. I didn't like the tiara. I was too thick. I didn't like her look. I thought she was like trying to look like too young. She's like,
She's older than him.
she's like 4 years old.
But the way she dressed up, shoulders, really nice.
I liked the style.
Yeah, very elegant. But check.
I'll try one. I have a tiara.
This is a front look.
No, that's not how it's gonna be. That's a different style.
This is so natural, normal.
Yeah, it's
That's
normal.
nice.
I kind of just want to look like myself.
I think it's very nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very nice on the side.
Yeah, that's not the.
I know, that's not the one.
I like that one, but I felt like she did a sloppy job and I didn't like her.
Yeah, if you don't like her, then.
Yeah. I gotta run because I got shit on to do. But, what's up with you? How you doing?
Okay, what's that?
What was this? They have an assignment?
Yeah.
They say for they decided to say for next to a lawyer.
Exactly. No, I wanted to see the calculation again.
Oh.
Exactly. Just show the,
Did he send you an email or anything like that?
if, he said he's going to, and I sent it to you. Yeah, sure. I gotta go. Okay. Okay. If you, this here. If your brother is not interested, 4 million. 3.6. It's a very good location. I don't have much because he hasn't signed anything. He just wants barn. Yeah.
I get paid.
Okay, you want me to take over the couple and then work on that?
Yeah, I think it will be better for you if you just bring the buyer.
No,
You get the full commission.
That's okay, I'll share it with you.
Yeah.
Actually, I can just, I'll put them, I'll list them with you and then I'll help you out with it. How's that?
Yeah, sounds great.
Sounds good?
As long as you have a buyer.
Well, let's, I'll have a buyer.
The buyer is good. No, serious.
Let's put it on the market.
Yeah, it is a market.
Oh, it's on the market already? What was this all about?
So he left, rejoined this.
اجاره میده اما اکثرا بایرها اجاره میدن اینجا بس بشه با صحبتی همون موقع من اینجا اجاره دارم یه خونه خود میکنم
باید تو واسه ما دیگه بهش بهش نه
موقع مثل این اگه باید خودش
من گفتم دو ماه روزی رفت
حالا کی هستش باید درسته که اصلا نمیگیم موقعی که کلوزینگ دیت تموم شد بعد روز کلوزینگ اگر اینجا رو اجاره بدهید یک خواهی بشید
حالا توی ماه 14 من میخوام بفروشم
تمام این مسئله ریبیت اکسسی رو بعد از کلوزینگ متوجه هستید؟ ریبیت بعد از کلوزینگ اگه خودت این کار میکنید فرق نمیکنه
بعد چی؟ برو بده از این سال من این روز کلید دیگه گرفتم
ولی کلوزینگ خود سوال شما کلوزینگ قضیه
مشکلات بیشتر میشه مگه چیزی رو قبل از که سیاست باید باز مشکلات
یه شما گفت من ندارم کپیتال گین نیستش که نسبت کپیتال گین هست ولی اچ اس سی راست میگفت مفاصلش رو باید خیلی جالب بود $100,000 سود کرد در ناپایه $100,000
اگه قبل از آکوپنسی اساین کنیم دیگه هیچ مشکلی نیست. الان خودش
دو چیز چیزی من شنیدم باید گفتی من دفعه استیفنی پوزیتی نمیشه بابا همه به همه بدهکاره به تو کمپانی بدهکاره اوتیز کجا دارم سازن؟ بوجسی رو میگی؟ نه خب بنگرسی الان مثل کنکور میشه کمپانی دیگه بدش میکنه الان الی بوده الان التماس مثل اینو که میشناسی یه دفعه ما رفتیم
التماس معنی یا مثلا دارید دیسکشن از شما
نه بهت میگه بیا به ایمیل میزنه به یه سوال کردم من از میدونم برمیاد نتیجه من باید افرستم آقا من امروز از الکی مایکل الکی شما امروز به ایمیل زده از فلوق تا الان مثلا امروز ایمیل بسید فرستاده 15 تا 20 تا باید نبید نه میدونم میخواد
برو اونجا برو پشت ست بعد فردا ست دیگه ست دیگه هم نگید نه خودش رو بروی ما الان اولی سلطات چیزی نشسته و اولی سلطات و دومی هم مثلا یک تا 16 بود مثلا 5 6 سال بعدا میخوام مثلا 16 تا 25 بعد من فرداش رفتم اون سلطات اولی 4 تا تریتوری یه سسپسیم بود 4 تا
نه یعنی یه سسپسیم بود یا خود
وسیله رو کرد بزرگ بزن یه تیمی رو ببینید من دیگه در واقع میشه تا اونم با حال نمیکنم
شاید زنده میشه
اگر حالت باشه توی یا دو تا بدونید یه دونه بخرید همین مرتب بتاب ولی یک نخرید الان مثلا یک دونه خرید من که چیز یکی از دوستان باید من که بودم بود پاپولار پاپولار بسته 20 دقیقه ما بکنیم مثلا نگه داشتیم
منو بیرونم کردیم مثل نه من با مشتری کجا رو خدامون نداد من مشتری رفتم داخل
اون آره که مال اون موقع خودش گفت نه ولی این دارم با همه کار نیست